The dense jungle pulsed with life, every leaf and branch teeming with creatures hidden from sight. Birds cawed from the canopy above, and insects buzzed through the humid air. But beneath the vibrant facade of the jungle, something darker lurked. Tip and Jax moved like shadows through the undergrowth, their snow leopard forms blending seamlessly with the dappled sunlight that flickered through the towering trees. Each step they took was measured and silent, their claws barely touching the damp earth. The smell of wet soil and distant water filled the air, heavy and rich, but there was something else, something rotten just beneath the surface. Jax, the elder of the two by mere minutes, moved with a quiet confidence, his white and black fur hidden beneath the onyx sheen of his black studded leather armor. His twin, Tip, exuded an ethereal menace, his darker fur almost blending with the shadows that seemed to follow him wherever he went. The flickering light of shadowy energy coiled around his right wrist like a serpent, giving him an air of mystery and danger. The butcher said the troll was last seen near the waterfall, Jax muttered, his tone low and focused as he scanned their surroundings. His eyes darted to the path ahead, where the sound of rushing water grew louder with each step. The one just up ahead? Tip asked, his voice lighter, more playful, but sharp like a whisper carried on the wind. His smirk was teasing as he glanced at his brother. If that is what your nose says. Tip's claws tapped lightly against the ground as he moved, the shadows curling around him in response to his every movement. Do you smell any monsters nearby? Jax paused, his nose twitching as he inhaled deeply, his ears swiveling to catch any hint of danger. The posture of his body shifted, tense, alert. Yes, many. A soft chuckle escaped Tip's lips as he flicked his tail playfully. Obviously, brother, but do you sense the troll? Jack's eyes narrowed, focusing on the humid air that seemed to carry the foul scent with it. Oh yeah, the scent trail is strong, he said, grimacing. This thing must be rotten. Well, yes, Tip said, his gaze drifting towards the trees where something grotesque hung from the branches. Did you see the flesh hanging on that tree? Jack's expression hardened, and a sense of urgency crept into his voice as he shifted his weight. We must not waste time. Tip's form blurred slightly as he began to move faster, the jungle responding to his speed as he darted ahead. Then come on. The jungle parted ahead of them as the sound of crashing water grew louder. They moved swiftly, their paws gliding over the soft earth making almost no sound. As they reached the edge of the dense foliage, the sight of a deep blue waterfall came into view, cascading powerfully over jagged rocks, its mist rising into the air like a veil of spirits. Jack slowed, pointing towards the waterfall with one hand. Look, guards. Two armored figures emerged from behind the waterfall, stepping onto a narrow ledge. Their faces were obscured by helmets, their movements precise and mechanical as they scanned the area. After a moment, they retreated back into the roaring cascade, vanishing from sight. What are they hiding? Jack's voice dropped to a suspicious whisper. The troll? Tip cocked his head thoughtfully, but even he didn't seem convinced. The situation felt wrong, out of place. Jack shook his head, uncertainty evident in his tone. It seems odd, but that is where the dire smell is coming from. Come, Jack said, his voice steady now, tinged with determination. We can take them from the top. With the grace of seasoned hunters, Tip and Jack scaled the cliffside, their movements synchronized and silent as they ascended towards the ledge above the guards. The jungle fell away beneath them, replaced by the sound of rushing water and cool mist that kissed their fur. When they reached their perch, Jax paused, perched on a narrow ledge overlooking the guard's path below. His hand reached for his blank white porcelain mask, and with a slow exhale, he placed it over his face, the smooth surface hiding his expression. His breath slowed, and he pulled out his bow, eyes focused on the targets below. Tip, on the other hand, prepared a bit different. His hidden blade gleamed with dark energy, the shadow around his wrist coiling tighter, pulsing with a life of its own. Okay, on my count. 3, 2, Jax whispered, his voice firm and controlled, but before the final number could leave his lips, Tip had already moved. Like a shadow, Tip leaped from their perch, his blade finding the guard's throat with lethal precision. The guard let out a quiet grunt, but it was over before he could cry out. His body crumpled silently to the ground, lifeless. Hey! The second guard below called out, suspicion creeping into his voice as he glanced around, but he was too late. Where did you come from? The second guard shouted, fumbling for his weapon. But Jax was already prepared. He pulled back his bowstring and notched an arrow in one fluid motion, releasing it with perfect accuracy. Ahem, Jax said with a hint of humor. He's with me. The guard barely had time to register the words before the arrow struck him square in the chest. He staggered backwards, his body tumbling off the cliff, disappearing into the mist below. Brother, Jax turned to Tip with a reproachful glare. You did not wait for my count. Tip stood over the first guard's lifeless form, his hidden blade still pulsing with dark energy. The shadow seemed to feed off the guard's soul, leaving behind a hollow husk. Tresvax's hunger does not wait, Tip said simply, his voice as dark as the shadows that clung to him. Jack shook his head, his expression a mixture of disapproval and understanding. Come on, the troll is inside. The roar of the waterfall faded as they stepped into the cavern behind it, their forms swallowed by the shadows that lingered within. The air inside was thick with the stench of decay, damp earth mingling with something far more rotten. Roots crawled along the ceiling like veins, reaching down into the mud that squelched beneath their feet. Dim braziers flickered along the corridor, casting long, dancing shadows on the wall. Jack's eyes flicked ahead, his senses heightened by the eerie silence. There's something up ahead. It's just a guard. A lone guard appeared in the gloom, unaware of the approaching danger. Leave this to me, Tip growled, his form shimmering as the shadows wrapped around him like a cloak. In an instant, he was upon the guard, his hidden blade piercing through the leather armor with ease. The shadows pulsed once more, and the guard's soul was ripped from his body, leaving him a lifeless husk on the floor. Jax let out a breath of exasperation. Brother, do you always have to take the soul? Yes, that is the cost, Jax. Tip's voice was a soft purr as he licked his lips, a wicked grin spreading across his face. You know there is no such thing as free lunch. Well, except this mouse. With a quick motion, Tip threw a small knife, pinning a scurrying blue mouse to the ground. He picked it up and devoured it in one swift bite, licking his lips with satisfaction. Jack stared at him quietly, his expression hardening. I can't believe you didn't share the mouse. Tip laughed to himself, the sound cold and sharp in the damp corridor. Oh, brother, do not fret. Your tools have a cost too. They moved deeper into the cavern, the air growing heavier with the smell of rot and decay. The flickering light from behind a red door signaled their destination. Jax gripped his sword tighter as they approached, the heat from his amulet intensifying with every step. Ah, my amulet, Jax grimaced, feeling the sudden surge of pain against his chest. Tip's eyes flashed with curiosity. What about it? It just got insanely hot, Jax said through gritted teeth. Tip tilted his head, intrigued by the sudden change. Is the monster it indicates not a Rekasha? Yes, it is, Jax replied, his voice strained with concentration. If that demon is here, we must tread lightly. Tip grinned, his form flickering in and out of the shadows as they approached a staircase leading upward. Roger that, brother. I'll go first. You follow, but quietly. Tip moved ahead, his form blending with the shadows as they climbed the stairs in silence. Each step brought them closer to the source of the foul stench, closer to the danger that lurked just beyond the flickering light. Jax followed the heat from his amulet, a constant reminder of the deadly foe waiting for them at the end of the path. Together they ascended, the shadows closing in around them, the tension rising with every step.